Alrighty, and give it a few seconds to breathe. Hello, everybody, and welcome in on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. At least it's beautiful here in the east side of Iowa. I am Nick Kendell, along with Jon. Jon, welcome to the screen. You've been behind the scenes here for a bit, but you're making your first appearance. Talking some football on the Mile High Huddle.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I was very pleased when you gave me kind of the offer. And it's just one of those things where I've been in the chat for so long. It's exciting to actually be on the screen now, and we'll be actually speaking to some of the people in the chat, and it's going to be a fun night.
Yeah, so Luke has the night off. I think it's his anniversary today. It was either his anniversary or his daughter's birthday. I know he had got off 1 week for one of those. I think it's the anniversary today.
I think so. I remember.
So
Do we know how long?
No idea. Either way, cheers up. And unfortunately, I know we have the Knicks beer fund for everybody in there. But folks, I will not be drinking today because I have an ulcer. Ouch. A lot of stress, all the moving stuff. And yep, I got an ulcer. So I'm going to take it easy. Antacid, Pepto-Bismol, all been my friend. So, but anyway, enough about me. I'm doing okay. If you see me wincing though, just bear with me. I'll pin through it. But this is Mile High Insiders today. I believe I've missed the last two shows because of the moving and everything. But I'm going to be your host today, Nick Kendell, and with Jon. You guys can find us on Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH and at Jon K MHH. You can see it on the screen there. That's KAY, not just the letter K. Make sure you subscribe to our show wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave us a rating. Also, don't miss out on all our great off-season content and soon-to-be preseason content at My Huddle of Sports Illustrated. So I've been gone for 2 episodes now. I'm already kind of mushing up my words, but we're talking about one of my players that I'm most intrigued in this upcoming season, and somebody that we've had a little bit of back and forth about. Jon, you don't seem like somebody who's going to have a lot of, I guess, conflict. You're a pretty easygoing guy, but one area where I feel like we definitely can butt heads is Broncos' second-year tight end, Noah Fant. He is obviously Broncos' first-round pick in the 2019 draft, 20th overall, and came in last year, kind of up and down. He obviously had the rookie struggles that you're going to see with a tight end, but had a pretty darn good season considering just how, I guess, horrible the Broncos offense could be at times. I mean, from the quarterback play to the offensive line to the play calling, Noah Fant had flashes. I mean, he was a really fun player last year. I mean, if you watch his highlights, you see a guy who has incredible potential. You see the athleticism out there. So I guess that's the big thing for this chat today. Noah Fant, 2020 expectations. What's he going to be? Is he going to be good? I know that I'm definitely a bigger fan of him than you are. You have your doubts.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, again, I think I went into this process from that year not expecting a tight end to go in the first round. I really don't value a tight end in the first round as much as most people. I think that a tight end in the first round goes to a team who's drafting at the end of the end of the draft, or maybe they trade up, something along those lines. But again, it's a team that's so close to actually being able to make it to a Super Bowl run. When it comes to Noah Fant, I felt like first round use was not correct. By the time it takes, again, from what I'm hearing, it takes about 3 years for a tight end to get their full development. And by that time, I feel like we're going to get one great year out of him when he's fully developed. And then we have that 5th-year option where, I'm just not sure it's going to be worth the money at that time. And it's one of those things where I also just saw a person who was very athletic. Like you said, there's a lot of different bursts of, hey, I'm seeing flashes of some greatness here. Houston, that game he was performing. He's performed plenty of times really well. I just haven't seen it consistently. So again, it's one of those things where I saw it over a course of 2 games. I don't think most of your yardage should come from 2 games. And again, he had a lot of yards per after the catch, per catch, but it was just too little, not often enough.
Yeah, so definitely we want to get to the chat here. We'll definitely be getting into some more Noah Fant talk here because obviously maybe it's just me being an Iowa homer here, but I have a little bit of a different take here. We got Terry Randall here, Kevin Peterson, good to see you, Robert Skinner, James Campbell, obviously. Charlie Beagle coming in against Nick. I'm not sure what that's about, but we got some people calling for you here. David Schlosser Jr., a beast. So guys, this is Buwana Beast, obviously, putting a face to the name there. We got Andy Rock Lovato. Hello from Kansas. Rock on. Robert Caslow, always coming in. Robert, we love you. What's up, Broncos country? We got Zachary's web design. That's great. Ryan Harris coming in here. Man, we got a lot of you guys. I missed you guys. Oh, do we have Nick's Pepto Fund? Thank you so much, Terry. Yeah, that would be very hilarious. I might not be the healthiest if I just started doing the Pepto like that, but that would be very fun to see that pink goo there. Chad coming in, boss man, to commemorate John's pod debut. $50. So that's great. Oh, John Libbick coming in. What's up, Beast?
Hey,
Ryan Hamilton. So yeah, we got a lot of good names here. Oh, we have Pabby coming in also. So that is we got a lot of good names. So guys, that jumped down here. So hopefully I didn't skip anybody, but we appreciate everybody. Welcome in on this Saturday night. Coming back here now to Noah Fant. I understand what you're saying. I think we need to, I definitely, your first point about drafting a tight end in the first round, I agree with you to an extent where it's a position where I don't typically value it in the first round. Maybe it definitely depends on the individual player, but unlike running back, like you said, tight ends typically take 2 to 3 seasons before they really emerge into the player they're going to be. So you need to take them before you need them immediately. It's different than running back, where that rookie year running back, honestly, is probably going to be as good as they ever are going to be. Like, they're going to come in who they are. With tight end, though, you kind of have that curve, and it's honestly what's perfect about Noah Fant is that he's curving the exact same as Drew Lock. So they're going to both hit like what they're going to be at the exact same time. And it just makes so much sense to give him another weapon. Going back and watching some Noah Fant today also, one thing I love about him is he didn't make too many incredible route running or anything like that. That's not really his game, but he is such a height, weight, speed freak that if he has space, even if it's just a dump down option, he can go 40 yards, 50 yards. I mean, that touchdown he had, it was a screenplay against the Jacksonville Jaguars. To see him, somebody that size, move the way he did and just have guys bounce off of him, it really reminded me of a young Vernon Davis. I think that's the player that I most likely comp to him right now, where there's a little bit of concerns about like tracking the ball, the hands from time to time, blocking, but just being that height, weight, speed athlete. If you can get space for him and just get him the ball, it's a problem. So when you have guys now, the way I was thinking about it is he's not really so much a classic tight end where you're going to get him the ball like the Tony Gonzalez catching 14 balls for 100 yards in a game and some red zone stuff. I think that's much more of a guy who's like a Ichiro hitter. He's getting on base constantly. Noah Fant's a home run hitter. He's a guy who's going to take it 60 yards. And you can get that from the tight end position. That's extremely valuable. So Andrew Mason over at DNVR, he actually had a fantastic tweet here just last week about Noah Fant. So it reads, last year, the only tight end with as many receptions of 40 yards or more as Noah Fant was Travis Kelce, elite company. And Fant was the first tight end in 25 years with at least 40 catches, 500 yards, and 14 or more yards per catch. So again, it's not that classic tight end where they're the big guys that block and they're kind of that safety outlet. But because Fant is such a home run hitter, and now you have guys who are more the quick route runners than Hamilton and Judy. I don't know. I think it kind of matches pretty well. So I'm really excited about Fant this year. I think he's going to take a big step. And if it's a pick your poison, I mean, and you can not only is it pick your poison, but you make the other team have to decide who they're going to game plan against, and then you go the other way. So you don't just have to rely on Sutton and Fant now. You can go multiple directions, makes them all the more dangerous.
Oh, I agree. I think now with the team that's set up the way it is, when it was just Sutton and Hamilton and Patrick, there was really just no Fant could be covered. And when he has, like you said, when he has that room, that availability, you want to get him the ball. I agree with that. It's one of those things where I don't see him being able to catch balls in coverage, when he has tight coverage, when there's disruption of any kind. But again, if you can get him with just a little bit of room. You saw it against Cleveland. He took that just kind of that drag route, if I remember correctly, and just went all the way to the house for 75 yards on one play. Like he said, he's doing those home run kind of hits. So again, it's just about maybe I need to also rework my expectations of what a tight end can bring. That's something that maybe is something to consider. But again, I see a person who is just a home run hitter. So I don't think that's going to be, like you said, it's not going to be multiple catches. But if he catches 4 balls a game for 60 yards, would you be happy?
Yes, especially, I mean, I would rather have the guy who is getting those chunk yards rather than the slot guy who's getting, his ADOT is like 3 yards. Like you want a guy who can really stress defenses because they have to pay attention to them because those big plays are killers. A lot of teams are giving up those short yards. I mean, I know that Cooper Kupp just ended up in the top 100, but he's not making explosive plays down the field. That's something that that doesn't bring as much value. And that's another thing. Like Zach Ertz, he really good hands, good route runner, but he's not making explosive plays. And I think in today's NFL, you really want to have that. So that's why the Chiefs are king. I mean, they not only are moving the ball efficiently, but explosively. And so I hear what you're saying, and I would love to get a yin and yang to Noah Fant and a tight end who maybe it'll be Albert Okwuegbunam, maybe not, but it's somebody who's a little bit more of that true Y that can be, the red zone guy, the Kyle Rudolph of sorts. That just classic, like doesn't really separate that well, but he's big, he's strong, he'll win in the red zone, and he will block in the line. Then you can move Fant, and it'll be gorgeous. I mean, that's kind of just the perfect, again, yin and yang to the tight end position there. But for Fant, though, I mean, for what he can bring, man, I think it's really great for this offense. And again, who are the home run hitters in this offense? You have obviously Noah Fant, and you have Cortland Sutton. Those guys are going to have down the field making plays, maybe not going to be peppered with targets as much, but now you have Judy who can win underneath and middle level. You have Hamilton who should theoretically be able to win underneath as well. I mean, both those guys, I think, were two of the three best receivers as far as average yards of separation per target last season in the draft. Which is, I mean, that's incredible. That's exactly what they're going for with quick strike. But then you have opposite end, Sutton and Fant, the big home run hitters. So it's really just all balances. I think this is going to be a big year for Fant. I know it typically takes 2 to 3 years for a tight end to emerge. And Fant has work. I saw somebody, Christopher coming in here. He needs to be a better blocker. Fant could improve as a blocker. I do think he's a little bit underrated there. Not as good as Hawkinson was coming out, but he's not horrible. We've seen horrible blockers. He's not like Julius Thomas level bad as a blocker. Right. So I don't know. I think he's in for a big year. I think that also because he played at Iowa and all the experience he had, that 2 to 3 years, I think this year will be the year that Fant emerges, assuming football happens in any normal capacity. But that's just my take. I think he's in for a big season.
Yeah, and I think it does change quite a bit from when I first made my assessment to now, because, again, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, now it's not so much focused on just Sutton over the top and kind of Fant taking those 20-yard routes, where now there's going to be more open space. So I agree with you there. Let's go to the chat, though, for a little bit and say hello.
Yeah, for sure. David Kilgore coming in. I believe that Fant's former teammate Hawkinson is better. What do you guys think? Well, it could be. That's the case. I think the Broncos, if Hawkinson was there at 10 in the draft, I think we would have had a conversation. But he went 8 to the Lions, which was the highest drafted tight end since, I guess, Eric Ebron went to the Lions before that. And I think the next 3 picks were like Aaron Donald, Odell Beckham Jr., and somebody else who's incredible. Yeah, that was a mistake. But I do like Hawkinson a lot. I think Hawkinson's much more of your classic tight end. That being said, if today's game is all about the passing plays and you're looking for guys who can kill you and really just cause mismatches in the pass game, Fant's a better athlete. Fant's younger. Fant has more athletic upside. So they're both really good. I think Hawkinson was a safer player. He's more of the classic tight end. But if you're looking for a high-flying offense, probably Fant's the guy, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I think it depends on what you're doing with your offense. And it's one of those things where I really did like Hawkinson coming out. But, he got hurt last year. I didn't get to see enough. And when that happens, I didn't see enough from Hawkinson to make a distinction between the two at this point. But if I were going back to the draft, I would have taken Hawkinson much more early.
I mean, there's a reason that one win at 8 and one win at 20 as well.
Right.
But we'll see. I mean, hot take here. I think the Lions have a chance to win the NFC North next year. I think the infrastructure they have. I don't trust Matt Patricia at all, but I love Matt Stafford. I think Matt Stafford might be the best quarterback in that division next year. Hot take. Aaron Rodgers does not look like Aaron Rodgers since that shoulder injury, but they were killing it.
MVP. Stafford was MVP quality until he got hurt in the back.
Yep, exactly. So it'll be really interesting to see. We got Pabby coming in here. Wow, really making a big debut for Buwana Beast coming in. You guys rock, showing some love for Buwana's debut. Thank you for all you do. Go Broncos. Yeah, and thanks for coming on today. I know that you were a little bit like, are you sure you want me to come on? I'm like, absolutely. We've talked enough. You know what you're talking about. We can talk some football here. And guys in the chat, I mean, I know that Chad and Luke have had people on as well. So I figured it was time to pop that podcast cherry for you, that live stream cherry. Yes, exactly. So you got a better background than I do. I moved out of Iowa City. I'm not in Iowa City anymore. So sad face. It's probably what brought about that ulcer. So, but yeah, no, coming back to Fant, do you believe that the team moving on from Jeff Heuerman has any impact on Fant's role this season, or was that negligible? I mean, that was just it was going to happen anyway. Fant was still going to have a big role. Heuerman being there or not doesn't have any impact.
So I liked what Heuerman brought in terms of being able to catch those balls within that 10 yards. He got his head, he turned it around quickly, made the catch. He got tackled immediately. But if they needed to do it for a simple 4 yards and that was the design for it to go to the tight end, I would trust Heuerman. However, again, it doesn't really have much to do with Fant, I think, at all.
Yeah, I think you're right there because, I mean, Heuerman was much more the Y tight end to Fant's F last season. And they signed Vannett. I think once they signed Vannett, the writing was on the wall. And rumors were the Broncos were trying to ship off Heuerman for, even just moving up a couple picks. I think maybe trying to trade up to get Matt Hennessy instead of Lloyd Cushenberry, throwing in Jeff Heuerman there just to move up a couple spots. Didn't work out that way. But yeah, Broncos now have, is it $4 million or $4.5 million more?
I think it's just what I heard was 4.3. So
4.3. Okay, so there we go for the specifics. What are the Broncos going to do with that money? Do you have any opinions there? Do you think there's going to be some interest? I mean, the Broncos have some cash on the cap at least.
Yeah, with Elijah Wilkinson going into the PUP list, I've thought about some offensive tackles possibly. Again, I'm hearing a lot of other people say, let's go with Logan Ryan. We need another cornerback for depth, and in case Callahan is not available. And again, people were talking about him with the flu with Callahan. It's one of those things where I feel like the Broncos are actually going to sit on the money. I don't think in this world, in this environment, I don't think the Broncos are eager to go out and say, hey, I need to bring in this guy right away. They're going to take their time, do their due diligence, and think about that. Because if you bring in Logan Ryan on that 1-year deal, he wants $10 million still, from my understanding. He did not budge even with what's going on. So what are your thoughts with that money?
Honestly, the Broncos have cap space. That doesn't mean they have cash to spend. So this is a team that I honestly worry about how much cash they have. There's a lot of people that are close to the organization would tell you that, oh no, the Broncos are fine. They have plenty of cash. But then some other people are like, actually, they don't actually have as much cash as you'd think that they could spend. If they really had to, they could. But like how the money process works, you have to put money into furlough. And I mean, it's the same reason that the Raiders couldn't pay Khalil Mack. They had all that money in the stadium. They actually did not have the cash to pay him. So they had to trade him. I mean, the way it works, I believe, we probably want to bring Bob Morris on for something more specific cap-wise. But you have to, the signing bonus is prorated out through the entire contract, but that signing bonus is actually paid to that player all up front. So you have to be able to put not only that first year's salary and any other bonuses in there, but also that signing bonus into furlough to pay that player immediately. And that's a big chunk. So the Broncos are a team right now. I mean, blame it on ownership. There's a reason that they were the first team to also make a deal with the sports betting. They're trying to squeeze that udder as much as they can to get as much money as they can as possible, not leaving any rock unturned. But I think also because of the C word that we're not supposed to say, how much money the cap's going to be the next year. Who knows? That $4 million, if you can roll that over, maybe that saves them. Maybe next year they can keep Jarrell Casey instead of having to cut him because they were able to save that $4 million. So I think they're going to be conservative with it.
I agree wholeheartedly. I don't know the financial situation with the Broncos right now. It does not feel stable, just from an outside looking in, and again, it just feels like the trustees, it just isn't transparent at this point. It's just one of those feelings. Obviously the Broncos they're worth X amount of dollars, but that doesn't mean they have that type of money to spend again. So like you were saying, I agree essentially.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'm good. No, I'm good. It was happening.
Did we get to Kevin real quick right here?
Yes, of course.
Oh, okay.
No, we haven't. No, we haven't. No, let's get to it.
Okay. So yes, Kevin, here's my face. I usually do have scruffy, beard look, but tried to style it, did not go well. But anyways, you can see the dimple, so we're smiling.
That's the moneymaker, right?
Right.
And James Campbell has a really interesting question coming in.
Okay, perfect.
James, obviously, always a good facilitator of conversation. I've known him for years from different sports pages. But do you think the 2019 draft was more luck than process? And then he also continues on. So right here, Say the Broncos get Locke at 10, Reisner at 41, and no trade to the Steelers or Bengals, and then draft Foster Moreau in rounds 4. Are they better? Multiple ones here. Are they better or worse off despite the better process? I think they are probably worse off because you're also not including that capital that they got this year, which would have been the McTelvin-Agim, which or no, that's not McTelvin-Agim. It would have been Boyd Cushenberry. The 83rd pick would have been the Steelers. So you don't have him as well. And I mean, I guess the one negative, and that's a little bit unfortunate with it all, is that you don't have that 5th-year option with the quarterback position. But I mean, I'd much rather have Foster Moreau. Loved him. He was my day 3 tight end of choice in that class. He's the guy that would be awesome to pair with Fant. Really good in the red zone. Great blocker. Yin and yang right there. But I think that the way it worked out, I think it's about as good as it could have worked. And considering the extra assets they got, the fact that they got lucky that so many teams passed on Locke, then he looks like the real deal. Saying and doing everything right this season will tell the tale. But I think that they got lucky as much as anything, but I think they're better off with how it played out rather than your alternative scenario there.
Yeah, I think that's the way it played out. I do think it was lucky in many circumstances. But again, when it comes to luck, I would have loved to have that 5th-year option, but that's in hindsight.
Yeah.
When the draft happened, I was like, at 2nd round, that feels about right. I wasn't 100% in on him yet. Once you actually saw those 5 games, all of a sudden changed his opinions. Also just the preseason as well. I saw that zip. I saw that arm talent that we've spoken about before, and it jumps off the table. So we still have a franchise tag with him at the when that year comes, and we can play that game. Unfortunately, but again, it's one of those things where I see it as we have basically 4 years with Locke to develop at a lower price.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Anybody else could be available for that franchise tag that season? It could be Bradley Chubb because the 5th-year option.
Ooh, yeah.
So gonna have to think about that. I mean, we're talking 3-4 years from now, but or 3 years from now, because this will be 3 years from now. So let's assume that Bradley Chubb plays well enough here to get that 5th-year option and he stays healthy. So that's living in an ideal world here. Terry Randall coming in, the beauty of the beast. # Broncos world. You're gonna make him blush, guys. You better knock it off. No, otherwise you're gonna make me hurt. And then we got Mundungus Creevy.
Yes, you don't know Mundungus.
I don't know how to pronounce the last one
for a little bit.
Yeah, so I get to work on that beard.
Yes, I know. I'm so sorry. I had the scruff, like I was telling you, but didn't go as planned when I shaved.
Yeah,
but it's good to see you, Mundungus. I hope everything's going well.
So let me see. We got Nick. Nick, are you Beast as a favorite guy? Because I know Chad's been trying to get him on for a while. He hasn't been doing it, and here you just asking me, does it? So I guess you're asking there.
Why didn't I do the the Wednesday superstar thing or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's what he's asking.
Okay. It just came down to timing. This felt right. And it's one of those things where I just felt very comfortable with Nick, and this was something I was looking forward to, especially on a nice Saturday for me. And it was just perfect timing. So for me, it was just, that's how it was. And I would be delighted to do other podcasts, when I need to fill in or anything like that. But for now, I'll still be in the background. I'll still be, also sometimes saying hello. So we'll see what happens, and let me know how you like me.
Nick, you're ornery, my brother. Well, that's probably Ursula the Ulcer talking. So I plead the 5th in that regard. But I see you, Ryan. I appreciate you. Let me see. So yeah. Got more comments here about Jeff Heuerman gone for $4 million. Good riddance. So I guess we still have some tight ends here to cut. Jeff Heuerman, I think in a normal year, which it's not because the C word, you might see Heuerman still battling here. And also if the Broncos contract process didn't play out, it did. Maybe you don't keep Net because then you could keep a comp pick. Just how many contracts they signed this year, that's not in the cards. They're not going to get any compensatory picks for this next draft cycle. But I think because of that, trying to push the cap there, getting down to 80 instead of the 90, 93, the 90 that they were going to be. I think that's a big move for them. So it's unfortunate. I think for Heuerman, it's unfortunate they signed him to that deal last year. Granted, the way the deal was structured, it was built so that way they could make that move. And 1 year, but he had a bunch of also playtime incentives as well. He's been hurt, never really lived up to the hype. He was better than the Broncos' second-round pick that year in Ty Sambrailo. But, unfortunate. I do think it's funny also the Broncos had Heuerman, and Nick Vannett was the backup to Heuerman at Ohio State and was drafted a year after. So we'll see how it plays out. I think Vannett is safe. I think Beck is probably safe and also the first player to get the C word for the Broncos. I don't know if you guys talked about that. But I think those three definitely make it. After that, probably also keep an Albert Okwuegbunam. There's your tight end room. Mystery solved.
Yeah. And do you actually think any team's going to go out and get Heuerman? I've been hearing people say to me, oh, Heuerman's going to go to the Patriots. They drafted tight ends. They did the year before. I don't see the Patriots going after him. I really don't see where his market is even at this point.
Somebody will pick him up. I mean, he's
so?
A guy that even if you get a 1-year contract, yeah, he'll get a chance because especially a West Coast team. I mean, he's been in that Gary Kubiak offense. I could see potentially the Cleveland Browns going after him. I could see potentially the maybe the Vikings going after him. Maybe another West Coast team. I mean, he's got value out there. He's just because of the roster math, the numbers he had, and also just how the Broncos tight ends stack up this season didn't make sense. But he'll get another chance somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we got Chris Hernandez.
Oh, hey, Chris. Those little thumbs, remember? They're small. Sorry about that. But yes, please click a like. We definitely appreciate it. It helps us grow organically, as you know, and then we can bring in more fans and just, again, have great conversations with all of you. It's one of those things where I think it's a pleasure for me at every day. For you, Nick, I know you love Tuesdays and Saturdays. It's kind of a relief just from all the stress. Maybe this will be something to help the stomach, hopefully.
You know what? I hadn't missed a show in a long time. And then as soon as I miss 2 in a row, I get an ulcer. So I'm not saying that causation equals correlation, but guys, also station identification here. This is the Mile High Insiders podcast. Typically we'd have Luke Patterson here, but we have Buwana, John Cake filling in today. Find us on Twitter at MHI_football pod. Also, probably the most importantly, guys, subscribe, like, and share wherever you listen to this show, iTunes, YouTube, Facebook, etc. That means a heck of a lot to us, can really help us, as John said there. And also, if you like the swag here, the Building the Broncos hat, mine is still, I don't wear it except for the show because I am too afraid to destroy this beautiful white. I mean, I gotta keep it looking fly for you guys on here.
Yeah.
But I also got a haircut under here recently, so the craziness is gone, folks. But if you like the hat,
I still have the craziness. Again, you said we were going to ride this out. What happened?
The wife said, do it or else. And I said, yes, ma'am. So
Okay. She wins, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, every time she has to. Well, I guess if it comes down between her or the dog, that's when the question's going to be.
Okay. Perfect.
But we got Madungas coming in again. John, I heard he was getting some looks from the Vikings and the Raiders. Both those teams make some sense. Raiders are interesting because they have Waller, they have Jason Witten, they have Foster Moreau. I don't know about the Raiders, but I mean, who knows?
Sometimes they like to just say, mess with us, let's just say.
So here's a question coming in from Stephen Baumgartner. Did you guys see the videos about the Broncos, about Gordon and Lindsey getting their equipment? Take it away, Stephen, because I have not seen that one.
So I actually did see that video. It was, it was pretty cool seeing them, just kind of speak, with each other. I didn't actually hear any audio when I was watching it. So I'm not sure if they were talking about anything specific, but, it's one of those things where when they're next to each other, you kind of see, okay, maybe there is, Melvin Gordon looks bigger. He's taller. So maybe we can get something going with these roles. I hope to, again, kind of run Melvin Gordon into the ground at the beginning and hopefully have Lindsey kind of finish it out nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a good friend of mine coming in here, Noel Capella. I think we should get Logan Wilson. I think actually he means Logan Ryan there, although Logan Wilson, who was drafted in the 3rd round by the Bengals, I believe, maybe the 4th. It'd be great if we could get him too. But if Callahan goes down, we are short on talent. Again, $10 million a year for 2 years. I would do it. Denver is in good shape. We have pass rushers. CBs are okay, not great. So we actually were texting about this earlier today, and I want to hear your opinion first because you came on strong with your opinion on Logan Ryan.
So my opinion on Logan Ryan, I wanted to develop the youth. Let's get what is Logan Ryan really going to add for this development of our team, of the Broncos team going forward. I think it's going to be a 1-year deal he's going to get no matter what for Logan Ryan. And I don't see a guy who is he allows too many catches. Everyone's so hung up on, oh, look at all these interceptions he makes. Well, he was also targeted number one. He allowed the most catches. I think he was close to allowing 1,000 yards receiving on his own. I just don't know what the value is there. Again, it's just to be a replacement for Callahan, essentially, if he's hurt. But besides that, it's not a player who I would say $10 million. Look, that is a deal. I would be talking about a few million, honestly. I just do not like him. I do not think he has it anymore. There's too many catches allowed. People say, oh, but he's a Fangio guy. He tackles. Well, guess what? He's tackling after the person's at the legs after they get 7 yards on a quick slant or whatever. So for me, no way. Do not want him on this team. I want to see other players. I'd rather see Bosby develop. I would rather see Devontae Harris, maybe.
Devontae Harris is on my poop list right now for his some of his scientific comments recently, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to preach at anybody in that regard, except in football. I'll preach the heck out of you in that. Typically, Carl's the one who should be preaching on here. But I agree with you about Logan Ryan. Cornerback does scare me. I was much more a fan of bringing on Darqueze Dennard, who the Falcons just brought on. Logan Ryan, you make some good points. He obviously had some ball production last year. He had a lot of tackles and sacks, but his coverage is just not that great anymore. He gives up a lot of receptions. I mean, they targeted him a lot. If I'm not going to say no as staunchly as you did, like if the Broncos wanted to give him a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal where it kind of comes out to like, $6 million a year with incentives. Like let's say the Broncos go to the AFC divisional round. Well, then you get $2 more million. God bless you, Logan Ryan. You're probably a reason for that. But as far as the $10 million that he's looking for, especially with how cornerbacks tend to fall off, that makes me nervous. I don't know if I'd be spending that money. That $4 million, I think you'd probably even be better saving it and rolling it over. The Jeff Heuerman extra cap.
Yes. Yeah, I agree very strongly there. And, I let other teams sign Logan Ryan. I don't think he's going to get much. I don't see a market for him really turning around anytime soon.
So we got Boss Man commenting here, I believe. Smash the like button, Facebook. He's talking to you guys. And then also on coming in again, smash the like button from the YouTube account. So we got George coming in here, questioning here. If Ojemudia doesn't win the second boundary corner, who would you like to see there? And I think you kind of already teed it up. You said the name who would make the most sense as the second boundary corner.
Yeah, I like Bosby. I mean, personally, if that's who you were thinking as well. It's just one of those things where I believe he has some talent. I'd like to see what he can do. Obviously, there's risks there with his neck. I really haven't heard any reports, though. I've only heard outside people saying, well, we're worried about his neck. I've never heard anyone within the Denver organization say this has an effect going into this season. And I think if there was, they would have let us know, honestly. I don't think they would have also brought him back in because he didn't do an RFA, if I'm correct. He was signed.
Yeah.
So
for less than the RFA, I think.
Yes, that's true. So yes, I was I think we're good in terms of just let's see what we got there, and if he's proves what he's worth, then we can give the contract. And I don't think it'll be an exorbitant contract either.
Yeah, and Kenneth Booker's coming in here. Kenneth, good to see you. Maurice Claiborne, Drake Kirkpatrick, Brandon Carr, and Tremaine Johnson are still available as well. All names, I mean, it's really just a game of chicken at this point. Let those guys get picked off, and if you're in preseason or whatever, you're having some issues, you can maybe bring in somebody. But cornerback this year is going to be a concern. I mean, it just is what it is. It's kind of like the offensive tackle position. I trust the cornerbacks more because of the volume, the depth they have, as well as the coaching staff. Not to take away from Munchak, but it's just there's so many. It's the shotgun approach. There's just so many potential options that one of them hopefully sticks, right? So I'm hopeful there. Also, I'm a little bit hopeful in looking at the rest of the AFC West. I mean, I've been preaching about cornerback being a concern all offseason. It still is, but looking at every team in the AFC West outside of the Chargers, I think the Broncos might have the second best cornerback group in the division. But that's not really a speaking well about the Broncos cornerback group. It's just how bad the cornerbacks are for the Raiders and the Chiefs. Yeah.
And I agree there. The Raiders and Chiefs, they don't have much going on there, but I don't think these names really make me go, oh, let's, any excitement. To me, they'd be just a body in camp, and if they work out, that's great kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't see these being, like you said, they'll go to their teams. I'm going to be more interested in when the rosters get cut down finally. Who is there anyone we'd want to maneuver for? That's where the interest comes in. Yeah.
I do think that coverage is much more about the depth of the unit rather than the star power. So even if these guys are just bodies, if they are not complete, leaks out there, then they do bring value. Just because you have to have 4 or 5 guys that you can toss out there in a given game, maybe even 6 if you're including the safeties, the safety cornerback hybrid types. But again, cornerback's a concern. Bosby, we don't know about. Callahan, we don't know about. Ojimudi, we don't know about. I mean, heck, even Boye, we don't know about because last year he did not play that well. So I think he's a guy that he's the one that concerns me the most. I think if there's anybody that could be a Jawan James this season, as far as like, the hype, we're bringing him in and then just dinged up and doesn't play. I think Boye is the guy who concerns me the most that could be in that regard. Talking on my butt there. Who knows what's going to happen? I can't predict the future. So, but I think that's the one that concerns me the most. But I do agree with you. There'll be some names after teams are cutting down from, 90 to 53 or 56, whatever it has to be.
Practice and yeah.
So Madungus coming in again. What does Elway see in butt? Nice. But with the injury history, you would think that he would put more eggs in Fort's basket and release Butt. I believe Fort has shown it so much more than Butt and has earned a spot. I think the biggest thing is, it doesn't really hurt to keep both on roster right now because both have been injured. So you might as well just, keep more eggs in the basket, as you said. But also, I think definitely Fort is still eligible for the practice squad. I'm not sure about Butt given his injuries, like where his eligibility lies. But I would be shocked if he makes the roster. But you spent a 5th round pick on him, and he was really talented in college, so it's worth keeping him on, rehabbing him. It's not like he's like doing the wrong things; like he's working hard to get back. So even having that guy in the tight end room has some residual effect on the guys around him. But I mean, the big thing with Ford, yeah, exactly. I mean, he's a vet, and not even, but he's hardly played. But like as far as like how much he did at Michigan, his father was a football player, his grandpa was a football player as well. So it runs in the butts. I think that because of Ford's practice squad eligibility, it's not as big of a concern for me.
Now, I'm just going to grab a quick comment here. I've seen this a lot. People are saying we took, but a few picks before George Kittle.
1 pick.
It's 1 pick. Okay, so it's even worse. However, I always feel like that's hindsight. But you were in Iowa, you were a little closer to Kittle, if I'm correct, at that time. Were you? Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, did you have a feeling of him coming out and being, superior to Butt in any way, really?
Honestly, no. I thought he was a better blocker, and I thought he had more athletic upside. But honestly, Kittle was the guy who was injured like crazy in college. I mean, he injured constantly. Also, there was some talk, so he was kind of a little bit of an oddball, march to the beat of his own drum, which, as you've seen with the spotlight on him, he's a little bit of that WWE wrestler mentality, which is fine. But Kittle, I mean, he's as much a shock as anybody. You're definitely right about the hindsight bias. It sucks. I mean, how good would this Broncos team be if Kittle was that pick instead of
but again, would he have worked in this situation? Would the environment in Denver have been perfect for him? Would have been good for his family? Like, that changes everything. It's just, it's not as simple as just saying, we're going to swap the teams. He's going to have different relationships with people. And maybe he had a different tip from someone that really spoke to him and made him kind of just go, this is how I have to practice to equate to this great level of being a top tight end. So I think it's always, again, like you said, hindsight 2020. And
also, he doesn't have Kyle Shanahan, which is a big thing because you're talking about one of the best offensive minds, one of the best schemers right now. Kittle is no doubt great, but also those guys are schemed open. I mean, there's a big reason that the 49ers went with Brandon Ayuk in the first round last year, and they said that he was their number 2 receiver on their board, I believe, because Ayuk's not a good route runner, folks. I mean, just call it as it is, but he's long, he really crazy arms, kind of like Slender Man out there, and he's good after the catch. So if he can't get himself open, but you can scheme him open, then that's a guy who has some value. So that's kind of not saying Kittle can't get himself open, but just I think Kyle Shanahan and that impact and that fit can't be overstated.
Right. And I think that's with a lot of teams. And so keep on going. We have
So yeah, no, let's say what would have to happen this season? Let's bring it back to Fant. He's the shining star on our show today. You've been a Fant skeptic, obviously, and that's not the worst thing. I mean, you want to see it to believe it. There's definitely been some highs and lows last year. I remember a few plays last year. Actually, Fant's a little bit petty because I feel like I compliment him on Twitter, but if I ever say anything nasty about him, he'll like it. Like he'll find it. God bless it. So I said last year, like, oh yeah, there was a play, I think it was week 16 or 17, where he had a catch and he ran backwards behind the first down. Like all he had to do was lean forward and he had a first down. I think it was against the Lions. And I said, like, I prefaced it like, hey, I love Fant's upside, but sometimes you just don't see the football IQ out there. And he liked it on Twitter, which was like, God bless it. I say so. Like, I'm a big fan. Like, I think your game is great, but just sometimes, like, dude, don't make the extra play. Just get that first down. It's right there. I think it might have even been a second down or something. So, no, he liked that. But what has to happen for you this season for you to change your opinion on Fant? What changes? Doesn't even have to be a statistical output. What needs to happen for you to be a Fant believer and justify that pick?
For me, I just want to see him take the next step in terms of technicality, being just more of a technical player. I'm not really in terms of too worried about his blocking skills even compared to some of the other people and other skeptics. I think he's improved, did improve throughout the season, so that's something good to see. And I expect him to keep improving. He won't do so much of those holds where it was just kind of his body was turned around funny. For me, I think it has to be one of those things where I see it as a total offense where it comes together as a package. So it's hard for me to separate Fant from the Broncos offense. I want him to produce around what he did last year, but with so much more substantial numbers for everyone else. So I think it's a matter of small mistakes going away, focus on getting a few technique things that are just not athletic. It's just a little too much of people saying to me, he's so athletic. There's so much upside. I'd like to see it translate into something where I can say, hey, that is a great kind of route or something. For me, I want him to find the soft parts in the zone, basically.
Yeah.
I want him to be able to settle down, and then he has the ball and he has some room to move.
How much of that, though, and what you're asking for was because of Joe Flacco's inability to manipulate the pocket, buy time, and then find those soft spots in the zone? Because Joe Flacco, I mean, he was so unathletic in the pocket. You see that from Locke. Locke will drift a little bit when he needs to and buy time, and that's when you find those guys that can find those soft spots in the zones and when they can hurt you. So theoretically, you should see more of that this season.
Yeah, and again, I think that was early in the season. For me, I just want to see just consistent plays where it's not so much as, like you said, that IQ for me is where I worry. And I think with the right influencers, I just think also with Albert O behind him, he's going to feel a little bit more pressure that if he doesn't perform, there's another guy who's athletic, who's speedy, who has those talents. Well, let's see if what he can develop those traits that are missing. So I do agree there's a lot of Flacco there, and it's going to be hard for me to judge. Again, it's going to be a whole year kind of thing for me.
Yeah, for sure. That's all good points there. I am very curious to see what he's going to do. I mean, and there's so many mouths to feed. This looks like a team that's going to be built more as a run-first team this season, hopefully not too far in the future because it's 2020. But that's something, I mean, when you pay Gordon, you already have Lindsey, you have the defense, you have a young quarterback, you have questions at tackle. A lot of these things point to a team that's going to be and rookie wide receivers that typically take a year or two. All these things point to a team that's going to be balanced, if not run-centric. I mean, granted, I think there was only one team last year that ran the ball more than they threw it, and maybe two. Maybe it was the Ravens and the 49ers. Those are the only two teams that stick out to me as possibly doing that. But I think that hopefully in the future you'll see more of a pass-centric team. I think that's the way you need to win in today's NFL. But it'll be interesting. I'm a big fan of Fant. I think he's going to have a good year. I guess, okay, so you don't really like Fant as far as that pick in the first round. Where would you rank him in amongst the tight ends in the NFL right now, though? Is he already a top 20 tight end? Because I think he probably is, and it's based just on his athleticism. But that matters. That's part of the equation.
I agree. It's part of the equation. It's I'd have to take a look at the list, but it's you might be right. Probably top 20. I would probably agree with that. I think if he went in the second round, I would feel completely different. It was just the first round for me being a little bit shocked, I thought. And I think that's just carried over for me personally. I want more out of that first round pick. But again, if he was in the second round, it might change my whole perspective honestly.
Well, just flip him and Lock.
So if we flip them, I think I'd be actually quite. Hey, that's a great season. 40 catches, set some records. But it's one of those things where that it just did not settle well with me. And but I agree, he's athletic. He has the talent. I think
Home
it's
run
going to
threat.
home run threat. Agreed. I think he proved that in Cleveland and Houston. The other games you're going to see about 40 yards, 50 yards a game, though. So it's just a matter of, are you comfortable with someone being able to just be a big play guy, or do you want someone who can be, a first down kind of mover? So that's what I typically like out of a tight end, someone who can just help you move the chains and continually. I'm not looking for that home run threat from them, but again, if he can really produce it, let's go for it.
And I think, again, this is coming back to the Henry Ruggs argument all offseason, but because of Fant's athleticism and the speed he brings and the explosiveness, even when he's not touching the ball, he's making an impact. Right. Because you have to pay attention to him, because teams do not want to give up those home run balls. That just kills them. That kills them. So I don't know. I hear what you're saying as far as the classic tight end, the big guy with red zone threat, catching the ball, falling down, but having a guy as unique as Fant in that skill set to bring what he does, there are not many guys with that skill set. Let's just call it as it is. I think that is super important and valuable. So it's going to be an interesting season for Fant for sure. We got one more super chat here before we get out of here.
Perfect.
I got to take some more of some Tums here, folks. With the new practice squad rules, are we allowed to move a coach to the practice squad? Maybe McMahon. I don't think that is the case. Honestly, I'm surprised no coaches have opted out because of the health thing going on right now.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially since a lot of them are older. Really, they're in their 70s. A lot of these guys, just they've been diehard, football coaches for years, and it's one of those things where I agree, because we've heard a lot of different coaches, like Kubiak, for example, at the time when he was here, had heart issues, heart issues. I expect that to be a lot with a lot of different coaches, because it is a stressful job. It takes all your time, and sometimes you got to worry about your family as well.
And here's a great post. Come back to our point from earlier. If the Ravens could go back in a time machine, they'd probably choose Lamar Jackson over Hayden Hurst too. Obviously, they traded Hayden Hurst to the Falcons, and the Ravens took Hayden Hurst in the first round and then traded back up for Lamar Jackson. In the end, it comes out in the wash. They're not too upset about it, I'm sure. It's just the way it worked out. And you know what? Honestly, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. But guys, I was the lucky one today, joined by Buana Beast, Jon K, MHH. Follow him on Twitter. John, what do you got the rest of the night?
For the rest of the night, it's just going to be relaxing, and I'm just going to watch some TV shows, maybe some Star Wars movies.
Which one?
What about yourself? You know what? I think I'll go with episodes. Oh, shoot.
On the spot.
Yeah. Let's go with 7, actually.
7? Okay.
No. Wait. 5.
Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah. I was trying. The new ones mess up my mind. So 5.
For sure. Well, I am going to go check and see how the puppy's doing. He's been quiet, which is pretty darn good, and just load up on antacids and sit in a corner. No, I'm just kidding. I'll probably eat some. I've been living on grilled chicken and saltines and berries, which have been helpful. So thank you guys so much for coming on today. John, thank you so much for joining us today. But that's about wrapping it up. We're going to be a little shorter today, but that's not the worst. Guys, find John on Twitter at Jon K MHH. Also find myself on Twitter at Kendell MHH. Go to milehighhuddle.com, an affiliate of Sports Illustrated, to find our Broncos related content. Go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. Like, subscribe, and share on YouTube and Facebook. And your support can help us continue to bring you our Denver Bronco deep dives. You can follow the Mile High Insiders podcast and all our other great audio content by subscribing to the Huddle Up podcast wherever you listen to these podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at MHI Football Pod. For John, I'm Nick, wrapping up another episode of the Mile High Insiders, and John's first time coming on here. John, again, thanks so much. I know that you were a little, I guess, I don't know if apprehensive is the right word, but you're like, oh, are you sure? Like, oh, just do it. Just come talk football. We'll have fun. It's not a big deal. It's easy. We're just going to shoot the we're not supposed to cuss unless the word is in the Bible, but shoot exactly. Shoot the bird. But thank you guys so much. Appreciate you all. Have a great rest of your Saturday night, and I'll be back on Tuesday. Yeah, be safe. Gosh, please be safe. And as always, go Broncos.
Take care, guys.